Hi everyone and welcome back. So in the last video we have seen the nice and clean demo. We are able to do the authentications and simple user sign up and user sign in. Now what we are going to do is we are going to do some enhancement in this application. Okay, we already know there are some to-dos, and we are going to introduce a JWT strategy so that once user is sign in, user get the access token or maybe a refresh token, and with the help of access token, user should start accessing the protected API routes. So what I'm doing is, let's say we'll create one more route, or before that let's fix this because here we need to return the data, signed data, and it is going to return as the whole payload which contains the user ID, email, password, and user ID, email, role, permissions, and the token. Here we just put a comments there, but we didn't actually wrote this update API. This is update user API. So update user API is dependent on auth service to validate the old password which has been sent by in update API is correct or not with the email. So what we are going to do, first we will verify that with the help of auth service that this current email and this old password really exist. So we can just use the authentication service, auth service, and there is a default method already there, this dot validate user by password. So what it takes is it should take two arguments, I guess, email and the old password. And this is the update user API. Let's say you are passing the old password and new password to reset the new password, to reset the password. In that case, you are passing the old password and the new password. So the old password, we need to check if the old password with the combination of email is valid or not. If that is valid, that means we should allow this API to update the user with the new password. So here it should take, I think, object as an input, validate user password, that is taking user DTO, and that contains I think email and password. So we have both the parameters. We can pass that parameter through this user controller update API. So there is an error. Obviously this is an error because it is expecting one argument and we are passing two. But what we can do is we can simply, let's see what this particular method is returning. This method should just return the result which contains the user, current user, and the token. And then we can just say return result, and what this token contains. Token also contains, I think, a lot of properties inside it, and if nothing, then it will return null. And this is taking object as an input. So what we need to do is we need to pass an object instead of just passing the email and the password. So let's see what we are doing here. We are returning null from auth service. So this needs to be an object. So validate user by email password. This is taking payload user sign in DTO, and this user sign in DTO is nothing but the email and the password. So we can just pass the email comma password. I think, okay, there is a typo. It should be password, not okay. So we are passing both of these parameters, email and the password. If we are passing correctly, this TypeScript error will go away. Okay, this is user service, and we'll fix this by changing it to the password. So here we are validating. Then we will just check, okay, if this is returning a token or some kind of object, that means if it is not null, that means that user exists with this email and the old password, and we should allow user to update its password. I mean, we should allow user to reset the password. So what we will do is we will just set fields to update. The fields which we are going to update, fields to update dot password equal to the new password. Fields to update dot password update dot new password. So it should be fields. Okay, so this is fields dot, what is the payload? Payload is fields. And here we are creating at line number 41, we are creating fields to update as a new map object. So it should be fields to update dot password. Now the rest all logic is same. It's just to validate, okay, should we allow user to reset the password or not? So it's like just some to do we are able to complete. Now another thing is when you are doing the user sign up, right? User sign up, we were not checking if user already exists with the email. Before even doing that, we can just check if the user this dot user report dot find one where user equal to where email equal to this lowercase of that email. Then if user founds, then we should not allow you to create a new user with the same email. We can just send a conflict exception, which is 409. That means resource with the some attributes already exist. You need to change the attributes. So find one by email, we can use the user service already method. If user is there, if user is not null, there is already a user object, so we can just change it to the existing user. If existing user is there, then throw new conflict exception. Okay, these are like basic enhancement which you can do to your API. User already with this email already exists. Now coming to the important part is the refresh token, or how we can write a protected APIs. Now you have that access token in your hand. So what you will do is you will use that access token to access the protected APIs. So for that we are going to use JWT strategy and auth guards. JWT strategy is nothing but whenever you are sending a request with authorization, it will try to decode the token, it will check the expiry, and it will give you the payload in the payload in your JWT strategy, and it will validate, okay, this user is active and exists. Then you can attach it. This JWT strategy will attach the user to the request object. I mean, regarding the permissions, I already talked about this. We will have permissions, and then based on the permissions, we can write a auth guard, okay, saying that, okay, this API routes can be accessed by the system admin or root user, because you cannot fetch all the list of users of all the restaurant. So there will be a system root user or system admin. There will be restaurant admin and restaurant user, and there will be end user. Restaurant admin should be able to access the data of his restaurant only, not any other restaurant. So this is how the user will bootstrap with the permissions, with the roles, and then we can create the role guard in the Nest.js for authorization. That means you can access this particular route, you cannot access another route, all those kind of thing. So here, let's say we are going to write another endpoint, and that endpoint will do is a refresh token. And what with the help of this endpoint, we will try to showcase how we can create a REST API in Nest.js, which is protected by authorization bearer token. If the token is invalid, then we will not allow. Or how this refresh token actually works. You will do a user will do a login. You will get a two tokens, access token and refresh token. Access token will have expiry of 1 minute or maybe 15 minutes. Access token, refresh token will be 7 days, a week. Once your access token expire after 15 minutes, your front end will start receiving 4001. When the front end token expire, you can actually use the refresh token, send the refresh token in the request, and you will get the new access token in the response, and you will start sending that new access token in the authorization header, and everything starts working fine. You don't need to forcefully log out the user to get the new token. So that is the concept of how we can manage the access token and refresh token. Refresh token you have to store in your database. So if it is in the database, then when the refresh token API you are hitting, I will check this refresh token is in the database, user is active, okay, this is the authorized user. If this user has the refresh token, that means he wants to get the new access token. Let's give him and get rid of that. So that is just a simple flow of how the refresh token and the access token works. I mean, in a lot of application it is being used. Otherwise, what you will do is when you start getting 401, you will forcefully log out the user, and you will present a login screen. Their user has to log in again, but that's not really idle. Okay, if the session is active, even after token expiry, you should be able to refresh the token with the help of refresh token mechanism. Here, this is the another API I'm writing. This API will be protected by authorization header. Without passing the authorization correct access token, you cannot really access this API. So we are going to use JWT strategy and AuthGuard for that. So it's just a simple, okay, what is the API response, API OK response, because it's a simple HTTP GET, and the objective of this is to return the currently logged in user. It's like a refresh token, and also it will try to regenerate the token. We will also write the end-to-end implementation of refresh token and access token, maybe in the next video, where when you do the login, we will return you the access token and refresh token both in the response. Here we are just checking, okay, this endpoint is protected and it will return you the new token. Before even writing the service method, we have to look into JWT strategies. So we already have some strategies created. Here we are going to use passport JWT, and that JWT strategy, what it will do is it will first check, okay, you have authorization bearer token, yes, decode it, check the expiry, and give you the payload. And based on the payload, you will do a user service call. This user service find by email, by passing the email. If the user exists, we are good, otherwise you are not authorized to access this particular route. Okay, so let's see what we are doing inside this refresh token. Refresh token is not going to take any argument. Here we will just write a strategy. So there are multiple strategies we can write. Currently we are going to write a strategy for just access token. Here we can just use a request. You can also access context, request, response, because in the response I just wanted to return the request.user. So you can use @request, and then what you can do is you can just return the request.user in the response. Okay, now there is a strategies. So here we can create a jwt.strategy.ts, jwt.strategy.ts, and this strategy we are going to create a simple class. This is also an injectable class. So this injectable class will do it. This is injectable class export class JWT strategy that should extend, I guess, passport local strategy, and you will pass a strategy here. And inside this strategy, this is a fixed set of code how we write the passport strategy. There will be a validate method, and inside a constructor you will just pass the mechanism to extract the payload from the access token. So passport JWT is not there. We will import it and we should be good after that. Now inside a constructor we are going to inject a couple of things like a user service we are going to use to validate that the whatever the user ID is in the token is really active user, have all the permissions and all. So we are going to inject the auth service, and we are going to inject the config service, because with the help of config service we will provide this JWT strategy the access token secret, because we need that secret again to decode the token and get the payload. Okay, so let's write it. Here we are going to add all these properties. We are doing dependency injection, and then with the help of dependency injection, here we are injecting auth service and config service, and we will just call, because we are extending the passport strategy, we will just call super and JWT from request. This is the mechanism using which we will extract the token from the header, and here we will just pass the secret, or the key is config service.get, and we will just pass the auth.secret. Using this secret, first of all we need to there is already a method extract JWT from authorization bearer token. So if you are passing the authorization header with bearer space access token, we will just use this method. I mean, it will internally use this method to get the access token value. So this is how we will pass the token bearer, and this is your access token. Okay, this is simple constructor. And now we will write validate method, because automatically it will pass the decode payload if the token is valid. Decode payload in the validate object, validate method. And here we can use this user service, auth service, to check if this user exists there or not. So it is using extract JWT. It will extract the token from the authorization header, and then we will write validate method. This validate method will have an input, the payload. I mean, whatever you decode the JWT token, that payload will be passed to the validate. So this will contain a user ID, email, and the properties which we put in the JWT token to create a token while doing a JWT.sign. So that payload is decoded, and here we already have a user ID or email, so we can validate if this user really exists or still active. So validate user by, here we will just pass the method. I think validate user by, or find user by ID, or validate JWT payload. That is also good. Here we are passing the whole payload. If it is returning the result, that means the user exists. Otherwise we can just return through new unauthorized exception. That is, we can just send unauthorized exception or forbidden. So unauthorized exception is still fine, otherwise you can send forbidden. Forbidden 403 means you are not allowed to access this particular resource. You need to be first authenticated. So for that you just send unauthorized. 403 is a forbidden. You will send it when you are authenticated, but you are not allowed to access a particular resource based on your role. So we will just send unauthorized exception. And here we are going to define this particular method, public async validate token payload. And in this token payload we are already getting the user object. So here we can call the service method inside auth service, that this dot user service, await this dot user service dot find by email or find by email, and we'll just pass the email, payload dot email. If the email exists, then we are good. We will just return the user. We will just return the user, or because I think this method itself is returning the user, so we don't need to check if user is a null or not. We can just directly return it from this here. So now what actually this is doing, this is returning the user, and this JWT strategy will put that user on the request object. Request.user will give you that information. Now inside auth service we are returning this, and JWT strategy is calling this. This is also an injectable class. So JWT strategy, we need to add that in the auth module. Auth module will have a providers. There we need to return it. There we need to put inside the providers and exports. So this is our auth module. We'll put this with auth service, and then this JWT strategy will be triggered to all the protected routes. So here what we will do is we'll create the auth guards. So it is just calling this validate JWT payload and returning user. Now what we will do is inside auth controller, whatever, because once if you are hitting a particular route which is protected, then this JWT strategy will put the user object inside request, and you will just print request.user. And here we will write a logic to create a new token based on that. So const new token equal to this dot auth service, await this dot auth service service. I think this dot service dot, here we can write a method which will just generate a new token for us. So here we will define a method, let's say create token. Create token method also we can call. It was private method, now it is public, so we'll just pass the create token. And create token method is taking user entity, so we can just pass request.user. It will just generate a new token with the new expiry, and we'll just return the user info, which is just a user and the new token. I think new token itself is having everything inside it, so we can just return the new token also. And this is request.user. we can destructure the user from the request, and then we'll just pass it. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are just going to play with this, and we have to protect this API also, and somehow in the Swagger also we need to provide a way so that we can pass the authorization header. Okay, so in Swagger docs we need to do some magic there so that we can start doing it. Here we are going to create a authguard, JwtAuthGurad.ts, and what this authguard will do is this authguard will check before even going to the route if request.user is available. That means you are authorized by JWT strategy, you that token is valid and the user is the active user. Okay, so here this I just copied the sample JWT authguard, extend authguard, and here unauthorized exception, and here we are going to get the, first of all we are going to get the context and then create a copy of, get the instance of request object, and we will check if request.user is there. That means we are good, user is already authenticated, has a valid token, and that has been validated by JWT strategy from execution context. Okay, so we'll just get the request object, switch to HTTP. Here we'll get the request object, and then we'll just check if request.user is there, then we are good, otherwise we are not. So it is going to return the request, and then there is a handle request method. So inside a handle request method we should have the user object available. If user object is not there, then at line 14 we are sending unauthorized, otherwise we are returning the user. So this auth guard will be triggered, so we can use guard annotation. We will just use guard annotation, and use guard we can pass this JWT auth guard at the controller level. So it is just returning, get request is returning the request, and then handle request is just checking that do you have a user object inside a request. If yes, we are good, otherwise we are not, we will just send you unauthorized exception. So use guard, and here we'll pass JWT auth guard. You just import it, and now this particular route is protected, so only a user coming with authorization bearer token can access this. So we will see more about this when we actually play with this particular API, refresh API. So let's say what we are going to do is, here we are returning, we can just return a simple new token, because new token will contain everything. It contains the payload, user payload, and the access token inside it. Okay, so what we need to do is we just play with this particular example, and we will just start the server. Server is already started and it is already exposed on Swagger. Now the last thing is we need to expose things from the Swagger, right? So I have added this add bearer auth. What it will do is it will add the authorization option in the Swagger documents. So once you get the access token, you can pass it, and then this authorization token will be passed to each and every controller. At the controller level also you can do it. So here you can see I'm doing a simple login. I got the access token. That access token I can just copy and paste it here. So this authorization will be enabled. So currently if I try to access it, I will get 401 unauthorized, your token is invalid. Then I will use authorization. So now if I just hit this, then you can see in the authorization bearer I'm sending this token, and I got the new access token. So same thing we can just use it with the actual refresh token also, where you are passing the refresh token and getting access token and refresh token back. So that we can do in the real world example. In the next video maybe I will just do it offline, and then I will just showcase the demo.